One of the complaints people have about college football is about how long the games are. Well, college football executives are getting closer to making rule changes to shorten games, and that will make everyone happy.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, February 21st in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will discuss why rule changes are needed and look into what the executives are saying and the data they're using to make some of these rule changes and how some of these rule changes impact the Ohio State Buckeyes. But before we get to any of that, it seems like every offseason I come on here and sometimes with my guy Jeff Hunt and discuss some of the ways to improve the sport. I've done it on the Jay Stevens podcast. Him and I had a 40 or 45-minute conversation discussing ways to improve college football. And I know I've done it here numerous times. College football is my favorite sport. When it comes to the NBA or the college basketball or the NFL, college football is my favorite sport. And I want the game to get better. I want there to be a constant state of improving of the rules, improving of the gameplay, the coaches, the way the players play all the time to make the sport better. Well, one complaint, one gripe I have had for a long time is that the games take too long. Now, you may say, Jay, they don't take too long. I am perfectly fine mapping out half of my Saturday to watch college football. Great. But let's figure out what you just said. Half of your day. That's a lot, especially on the weekend. Some of you have kids. You may have grandkids. Some of you may be newlyweds, and you're trying to figure out time to hang out with your significant other or the youngsters in your life. In a college football, mapping out a half a day for that, man, that puts a hindrance on your plans. Well, some of the college football executives, this is made up of a group of 10 FBS commissioners and 2 FCS commissioners. They have been working for 3 to 4 years on ways to shorten the college football game. Now, I don't think you need to wait 3 to 4 years to work on a proposal and possible rule changes for that long, but you know, they got to do all their due diligence in their mind to get to this point. But they got 4. Now, 2 of them are kind of easier. And then as you get to the 3rd and 4th, you're kind of saying, ooh, okay, this is why these are more controversial. The first 2 possible rule changes I am for. They're also called non-controversial proposals. They include prohibiting consecutive timeouts, for an example, icing the kicker. Also, no longer extending a first or third quarter for an untimed down if the quarter ends on a defensive penalty. The down would be clocked starting the next quarter. That's great. I get it. And honestly, I'm here for it. Now, you may say, Jay, why do you not do it at the end of the half, either the first or second half? Well, the beginning of the next half, and if it's at the end of the first half, the third quarter is going to be started with a kickoff. Overtime is started, and the rules are completely different for overtime than it is starting a new half or a game, which is why you can't have it at the end at that point in time. Now, some other possible rule changes in this proposal. In a third proposal, this is coming directly from an article written by Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated. He says in a third proposal that is garnering wide support, the clock will continue to run after an offense gains a first down, except inside of 2 minutes and a half. In a more controversial fourth proposal, the clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted for play. I am for the first 3. Let's go back and run this back once again. J is for, I understand, prohibiting consecutive timeouts. I get it. I know for a while people have said they don't want to make some of these rule changes because it's going to be more like the NFL. That's one that's like the NFL. Don't nobody care about that. Speed up the game. Another one, no longer extending a first or third quarter for an untimed down. I'm here for that too. Now, that might not save a whole lot of time, but it's still a way to speed up the game, and it will not deviate from the gameplay itself. The third proposal, the clock will continue to run after an offense gains a first down. I've stated that on this podcast and the James Stevens podcast for the past 2 or 3 years about keeping the clock running after a first down. That's an easy way to keep the clock running, to keep the game going. You may say, Jay, absolutely not. I would say, why? What's the hesitancy? Because it's like the NFL? What are we finding? The NFL and college are picking up trends from high school. The style of play, the way that the offenses are ran, that's trickling up. It used to be that stuff trickles down from the professional ranks. Now the stuff is trickling up. Now in the NBA, thanks to Steph Curry, a lot of things are trending, and it's going from NBA to college to high school, now down to Little League basketball or your rec league basketball. Why? Because players are shooting more threes, and now we're seeing that trend happen more in lower levels of basketball. Well, how about we take some rule changes from the NFL and adopt them to the game, because it's going to make the sport a whole lot better. Last but not least, the last potential rule change, the more controversial one, the clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass. Once the clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted for play. Ball stops on an incomplete pass. The play will start once the ball is spotted. Cool. Okay, cool. Once again, we're finding, there may be 10 seconds after an incomplete pass, or 5 seconds, or 15 seconds, whatever it is, that stuff adds up. If this is what you guys are figuring out and trying to work with to speed up the game, don't hesitate. Now, I understand there is a meeting before this stuff goes into effect that is going to be happening in a few weeks or a couple months before this stuff actually happens. Great. Okay, cool. Great. But at that meeting, implement this stuff. Because you know what? This also could happen this fall. And ultimately, we could be looking at Ohio State games being called differently. That's something we're going to talk about later in the show. Because if these are seconds that are off the clock, this is stuff that's going to dictate and impact how games are called offensively and defensively. This stuff should have happened years ago. But I am glad it's finally happening now. I am also glad that these people that are making some of these decisions are using some really good data to figure out and to come to the conclusion that they are. What are they utilizing right now to get to this outcome, to possibly change some of these rules? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all of the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then, man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they are all covered in 100% real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Thanks again for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked on College Basketball. It provides you with everything you need to know about college basketball, and it's all found in one place. Plus, hear from big-name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked on College Basketball is available on YouTube and wherever you get your fine podcasts. So we talk about ways to improve the sport, ways to improve every sport. Now, you may be a hockey fan, you may be a baseball fan, you may like the pitch count, you may not like the pitch count, or the pitch clock, you may not like it. Wherever you fall in that, you have an opinion about if that makes a game better or if it makes it worse. You may like basketball. You may like the NBA All-Star Game. You may dislike the NBA All-Star Game. You may love All-Star Weekend. You may dislike All-Star Weekend. I don't like some of the things about All-Star Weekend, but I like my boy. See, not really my boy. I love what we saw from Mac McClung. We've been seeing him do those dunks since high school, some of them in games, and I'm glad he brought that show to NBA All-Star Weekend. So we all are trying to find ways to improve things in sports. And when I discuss things to improve the sport, college football that I love, the game has been too long for a long time. I don't care who you are. Everybody says the game is too long. Imagine being a coach and you got to deal with this. And then you realize, wait, our halftime is how long? We run how many more plays than the NFL? And you're starting to realize, man, this game is tough. And you also realize that the guys that are at the top of the executives, they're taking a long time to kind of figure things out. College football doesn't have a rules committee where every year they're trying to change different rules like the NFL does. They do have a rules committee, but it's made up of people that are not really spoken of publicly because they're not really in that office. Okay, great. Every conference has their own rules committee, and I know the Big Ten, their officials work on things different than the ACC officials and different than the Mountain West officials. It's just weird the way the sport is ran, which is why we get to this point now. Shortening the game has been a problem, and has been needed, and I like some of this data that the individuals that are working on this have come to. Now, when I look at and think about what exactly needs to happen for the game to be shortened, there's a graph here on this article that has been put together by Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated that talks about the incremental how the game is being lengthened and how much longer the game is over a few years. Now, granted, this is a 5-year span, and it's not the most drastic thing, but it's still a snapshot of, the game's getting longer. And if we keep going this way, the length of the game in 2018 or even 2022, what we find in this graph, in 10, 15 years, it could be 15 or 20 minutes longer just based on how the game is progressing. In 2018, college football games, the average game duration, 3 hours and 16 minutes. Game duration. TV stuff, we all understand that, lengthens that. Average game duration in 2019, 3 hours and 16 minutes. 2020, 3 hours and 21 minutes. It goes down 3 minutes in 2021, then back up to 3 hours and 21 minutes in 2022. So that's just a small snapshot, but they look at some other reasons why the game needs to be shortened. NFL games average 155 plays. The average game at the FBS level averages 180 plays. Now, you got to factor in the NFL is more efficient on offense, which does help the game length and the pace of play. Professional halftimes, they last 12 minutes versus college halftimes being 20 minutes. The replay system in the NFL relies on a coach's challenge system. In college, an official in the press box reviews each play for accuracy. Now, one of my biggest things about the college game, as far as the length of it, replays, man. Replays. You ain't got to replay everything. Now, if you want to replay every score, okay, great. Y'all don't have to replay that for as long as you do. A lot of these touchdowns, they're easy through the naked eye from the actual game film, the game tape that we're watching on television. It's naked, or naked eye can see that right there. No extra microscope or nothing else needs to be added to it. But all of a sudden, we got to replay this for 2 minutes. Why? What are we doing? Regulations on the replay system would shorten the game. Now, I know at one point, I believe the NFL had a clock on how long you could replay a play, and that was perfect. That was great. Do I see college implementing a clock on officials while reviewing a play? Absolutely not. Why? One thing is social media. And a lot of people out there that will get on the Bird app, they'll get on the Instagram and make a video either of the play or of them reacting to a play to discuss their disagreement or how disgruntled they might be with a call on the field and the replay system and how it's flawed, whatever it might be. Or you might be going to the Facebook and make a long post, or maybe you go to the Reddit. I don't go on there, but maybe you go to the Reddit and you do that very thing there. Whatever it is, the replay system needs to be altered. And I wish that we would have seen that in the possible rule changes, but a lot of this stuff is for the clock. The consecutive timeouts, great. Eliminating them, I'm cool with that. Now, if you want to ice a kicker, great. You can do it once. You can't ice a kicker twice. You cannot do that. Like, you can't do it. I'm cool with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. College coach is like, man, but that doesn't allow me to have all the control anymore. Okay, cool. Is that what should that thing at the end of the game where you're trying to ice a kicker or maybe in the first half, should that dictate the outcome of a game? I mean, it will at that point in time, but there are so many other plays, especially when in college football at the FBS level, you're averaging 180 plays a game. There are so many other plays that'll dictate can dictate the outcome so that it does not come down to a field goal at the end of a game. So you may say, Jay, that's very important. I can give you concrete data. I did it on the Jay Stevens podcast recently, discussing why the officials are not why the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And I went over 3 plays during that show, discussing why these plays were very, very pivotal for the Chiefs to win the game, more pivotal than that holding call in the latter minutes of Super Bowl 57. So you understand, yes, the timeouts and all that stuff, but do a whole lot during the previous 179 plays so that 180th play is not the play that decides the outcome of the game. I'm here for it, and I like that they're going over some concrete data to discuss why the game needs to be played. FBF, here's some other data that they're utilizing. FBF games see about 2.3 replay stoppages per game, a figure that continues to rise and has officials considering a coach's challenge system, something that seems likely in the future. I'm here for it, man. Fix the replay system. Make other decisions. Make other rule changes that ultimately make the game shorter, which makes everybody happy. Now, you may be wondering, Jay, you talked a lot about college football as a whole and some rule changes and why they're needed and some data that they're utilizing to get to this outcome. How does this impact the Ohio State Buckeyes? I will tell you that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Sports betting is not legal in Ohio, and Locked On has the perfect show to help new in-season gamblers. Download and subscribe to Locked On Bets for daily picks and analysis wherever you get your fun podcast. Now, the Buckeyes are a team that's on national television every single week. And sometimes the pros of the team and the positive things, they're magnified. But I always find that the negatives or the cons of the team, for some odd reason, those are magnified way more. And when it comes to something like shortening the game, there are two things that I find will quickly impact Ohio State if all four or some of these rule proposals get put into effect. One of them is automatically going to be the play calling, offensively and defensively. If the game is shortened, that is less plays. That means every play means a whole lot more, because if you're averaging 180 plays and let's say it goes down to 170, you don't have that 10-play buffer to utilize, especially in those big games, because let's all be honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Ohio State has more talent than everybody in the Big Ten Conference. Now, the gap is shortened. I still think Michigan and Ohio State are a lot closer than a lot of people think, but I still think the Buckeyes have more talent than the Wolverines. That does not always mean that having more talent is going to be why you win the game. A la what happened the past two Saturdays following the past 2 years on the Saturday following Thanksgiving. The more talented team, the team with more talent, did not win. Just leave it at that. But play calling is ultimately going to be impacted. Now, Brian Hartline or Ryan Day, whoever calls offensive plays, I think it's going to be Hartline going into the 2023 college football season. Then ultimately Jim Knowles on defense. They're going to have to realize, 10 plays over the grand scheme of things might not be the biggest, but let's say it's 15 or 20. You realize one thing you know about the NFL, everything matters more. And I've heard Ryan Leaf discuss a game where he played during his rookie season and just the challenges and the differences between college and the NFL. He talked about the number of plays that he played in college in a game was a whole lot different than in the NFL. And he said the first half of a game, he was like, wait, I was barely on the field. We only had this many points, only had this many yards. And I'm like, wait, I'm not used to this. But when you have less time, when you have less plays, you better be able to capitalize and magnify everything quickly. Because if not, the margin of victory might not be as big as you expect it to be. And ultimately, the outcome of the contest might not be the same as well. So ultimately, play calling is going to be impacted. But also, something else is the rotation. Now, this is going to be emphasized on the defensive line. Now, the NFL, National Football League, you see guys rotate, but not at the same rate in college. Now, you may see an Aaron Donald or Colt DeForest Buckner or some other guys play a lot of the snaps and be successful while doing so. Well, if you have less plays, that allows you to play your better guys more because you're not worried about, we got to save him because he gets tired, he gets gassed. And so we got to pull him out and then put him back in at this point in time. So keep him fresh. Allow him to be as fresh as he can be throughout the entire game. Think about all of those things. And I do believe the rotation, not just on the D line, but let's say you're a team that rotates running backs. Your back's going to be fresher. Let's say you have you normally play 3 receivers, but you have 5 that you rotate or 5 that you play. Well, the starters, the top 3 guys, are going to get more plays because they're fresher. Let's say you rotate some things on defense. Still not the fondest of rotating everything at every position on the field. But let's just say you're a team that rotates guys at different positions. Ultimately, that is something that you don't have to do as much because there are less plays. So quickly, just 2 things that popped into my head, put down on my notebook, was the impact play calling, but also the rotations. Also, it forces coaches, this just popped into my head right now, it forces coaches to make better decisions. A lot better decisions. In-game adjustments get magnified when there are less plays. Coaches, your game plan gets magnified. Because you don't have all those plays and all that time to alter things and to change things. Things get magnified when there is less time out there. When you have less time doing something, you have to make sure you capitalize all of your time while doing that very thing so your goal while you're doing that thing is accomplished. These possible rule changes in the sport, they're needed. If they make all 4, even the 4th, that's the most controversial, with the clock stopping on an incomplete pass, but then starting once the ball is spotted. Hey, if you want to make all 4, I'm on board with it. And I'm somebody that I can find a problem. And I can pinpoint a lot of things in the sport. I'm on board with these. I don't get behind all the rule changes. All 4 of these, you got my approval. And my gut says there are a lot of you that would approve these rule changes as well. We're out of here on a Tuesday. Good old time around here talking ball, talking football. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. If you want to read the article by Ross Dellinger, I will put it on Twitter. When I tweet out the link to this show, it'll be on Twitter as well, so you can read the article really quick, easy read, and you'll be able to see a lot of the things we discussed today are found in that article. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball is available on YouTube and wherever you get your fun podcast.